Great of learners of Smart Tutor for You. Mrs. Mbele is back again. We will be going through the topic of genetics. If this is the morning for you, good morning. If this is the afternoon for you, good afternoon. And if this is the evening for you, good evening. And if this is the evening for you, good evening. Let us go through the topic. In the genetic topic, you know that you have guidelines, and I'm sure you have looked into the guidelines, and I'm sure that you have finished with this, as most of you were just doing the last part. So I think we are all done with the topic. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to test you. I'm going to test you, and I'm going to communicate with you to see if you do understand, and to see if you do have gaps, and to see which gaps you have, and then fill in those gaps that you have. So as you know, and as I've told you, that you need to look at the guidelines so that you know what exactly to know pertaining this topic. So what you see here is the ATP, the annual teaching plan, which is sort of a summary of a guideline. It forces you to know some things on subtopics of genetics. So as you can see here, these are the topics for the week, and I won't go through them to save time. And these are the activities that you should know. For example, this should actually test you if you do understand the topic or not. For example, look at these informal assessment. These should be your daily assessment. So when you do activities, you should focus on these tasks. Let us look at task 5. Do you know how to solve monohybrid genetic problems? Then if you know, you give yourself a tick. Do you know how to solve genetic problems on blood grouping and sex-linked characteristics? If you know, you give yourself a tick. Do you know how to interpret pedigree diagram? If you know, you give yourself a tick. If you don't know, you give yourself a cross. If you are not sure, you give yourself a cross. Task 6. Do you know how to describe cloning stem cells, research and genetic modification as examples of genetic engineering? You give yourself a tick or a cross. Do you know how to solve genetic problems on dihybrid crosses? Then you give yourself a tick and a cross. So I, as Mrs. Mbele, if you do have crosses, then you indicate, you show me on WhatsApp group, where is your problem. But I'll just make sure that I go through all of these, and I'll be sending you activities so that you can see, and so that you can evaluate yourself if you do understand, because this is very, very important. As you know, that these topics weighs a lot. It weighs about 30% of your final exam. So this topic, genetics, has got 45 marks out of 150, and this is paper 2 topics with a percentage of 30%. So that tells you that just by knowing this topic on your paper 2 exam, you will be able to pass, which is though ridiculous to just learn one topic for the paper. So it's showing you, I'm trying to show you how important the topic is. Okay. Now, these are the subtopics of a topic, genetics, that you should go through, and I'll be taking you through just to evaluate, to see if you do understand what is very important pertaining the topic. Starting with 5.1, the key concepts. Under genetics, there are some terms that you need to understand, that you need to know in order to understand the topic, because if you do not know those terms, then it will be difficult for you to understand the topic. It will also be difficult for you to understand the question, because they'll be asking you, for example, what is a phenotype? What is a genotype of this? You know, if you do not understand those terms, then you will not be able to answer correctly. You will just be confused about the question. So it is important to master certain definitions, certain terms. So we'll be starting with the key concepts on 5.1. Then we go to 5.2, the genetic crosses. And under genetic crosses, we'll be looking at 5.21, the complete dominant, 5.22, the incomplete dominant, 5.23, the codominant. These 3 types of dominance, you need to understand, and you need to be able to differentiate between the 3. You need to know which one is which. 5.2.4, the inheritance of sex. 5.2.5, inheritance of sex-linked characteristics. We'll be looking at the sex-linked diseases as well. 5.2.6, the dihybrid crosses. You need to know how to solve. You'll be getting crosses and you need to show how this is done. So I'll be showing you. If you still have a gap, I'll be showing you, because nakanjani, you'll get this on your exam, and many learners are confused by this. And 5.3, we need to look at the mutations. 5.4, the pedigree diagrams, nakanjani ayisali. You need to be able to understand it. You need to be able also to interpret it. 5.5, the genetic and engineering. 5.6, the genetic counseling. Grade 12 learner of Smart Tutor for You, these are the things that you need to know for sure on this topic. And if you're still having problems, I'll see by the activities that you're going to do, and we'll be doing a lot of activities. My dear grade 12 learners, it is very important to do as much as possible activities, because activities actually show you, they put you on a scale. They show you if you do understand the topic or not. Okay, I'm coming back to you, and then we'll be starting with 5.1, the key concept. Get yourself ready, get your paper, get your pen, and get your questions ready. I'll see you in a minute. Bye.